Okay. Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Natter with Macca. And I'm super nervous and a little bit excited today because I grew up watching my first guest on the covers of Cleo, Dolly, Cosmopolitan magazines during the 80s and 90s. Alison Bray was the face of Portman's, CoverGirl Makeup, Brian Rochford, just to name a few of the companies. She then moved into TV, featuring on a few iconic children's shows, and until 1991, when she met and fell in love with my other guest today, Cam Daddo. They married in 1992 and then they moved to LA to start a life for themselves. Cameron is an Aussie actor and producer that we all know. He too has had many TV shows, and many of us remember him probably as the host of Perfect Match. Well, all the girls do anyway. He's a multiple Logie Award winner. They have 3 beautiful children together. So please welcome my guests today, Ali and Cam Daddo. The crowd is going to go wild. The crowd will go wild.
Natter with Macca, that is the best name of the show I think I've ever heard.
Well, my partner came up with that. I said, what am I going to call them? And, you know, I'm an Aussie girl, so Natter with Macca, you know, got Macca.
Yeah, totally.
All my swimming friends call me Macca, so. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm actually, you're the most nervous that I've been to interview. I think because I just, like, you guys are iconic, right? So, you know, so Alison, when you first moved to LA, you know, you went to support Cam in his acting career, but you also did your own acting and did some TV shows over there, commercials and all that sort of thing. Then you turned your passion to teaching. So tell us a little bit about how that transition was for you.
It was the best transition I ever made. I always knew that modeling was never my first love. Ever since, you know, I think it's been well documented in other articles, and ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. I wanted to be a mum, and I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, anything to do with little kids. So, you know, heading to LA was, you know, it was a hard decision for me. It was something Cam always wanted. And of course, we'd only been married 8 months when we moved. So, and the industry, the modeling industry in LA was really, I was so disenchanted with it. I was gone back to the very beginning. I was doing sort of Midwest catalogs for prepubescent girl stuff. I mean, it was just awful. And it was when I got pregnant with Lotus that I went, oh my gosh, I don't have to do this anymore. This is something I don't want to do anymore. And jumped out of that. And that was when things really changed in the sense too, not only was I becoming a mum, but I had, both of us had met an incredibly influential to us body-mind educator. And I was so excited to be pregnant, and I was also really surprised at how much negativity I was receiving about being pregnant, about how horrible it was going to be, the pain, and your life changes for the worse. And I was so shocked by that. So I was sharing that with her, and she had previously run a program, you know, a birth program. And she said, let's start it up again, and I want you to run it with me. So that was my first foray into sort of the teaching world. So I started working with couples, and then I became a birth assistant and worked with women pre and post birth. So it was really, really a huge change, and the best change that I could have made.
Because you did that for about 10 years, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then,
it was just awesome.
And then you went and got your own teaching degree at UCLA.
Yeah.
So I found it really interesting, some of the work that you were doing with the children in the kindergartens and that. Can you tell us a little bit about that program, the expressions of emotions, and what you did there?
Just while you do that, I need to the dog is distracting me. It's got a bone in there on the carpet, so I'm going to go throw it out.
Life happens. Go for it.
It and the bone. Well, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah. So through working with through working with the Body Mind Institute that I was working with over there, and a friend of mine was there he goes. A friend of mine was a third grade teacher at a public school over there, and she was talking about, and it was a school that had a lot of kids that were bussed in from very low income families. And she was saying the rate of bullying and fighting and discourse in the classroom was one of the highest in the whole school area. The whole school was really suffering from it. So we, me and a few other ladies, created a program, and it was basically an anti-bullying program, and it was an emotional intelligence program. And we went in once a week and spent sort of half the day with the third grade class. So it would change every year, obviously. We always worked with the third graders. And we just taught them, we just had little games, and we had little, we would bring food in, because a lot of these kids would come to school with, you know, like crushed up bag of twisties for lunch. That was all they had. And we did that for 4 or 5 years actually, and it was amazing seeing these kids travel on through the school and remembering us from that one day a week, and sometimes it was honestly, it was just talking to these kids and telling them, you're really special and we love you and you can do anything you want. It's the first time they'd ever heard that in their lives, and they remembered that. They would come up 2 years later and say, do you remember when you told me that I was special? And we were like, yeah, of course. So it was a really wonderful thing. It was just a purely volunteer basis thing, but it was really exciting. Cam came in a couple of times. He played didgeridoo and sung for them a couple of times, didn't you? Yeah.
Wow. So Cam, I'm pretty sure that most of Australia's female population cried the day that we heard that you were dating Ali. Now I can prove this because I was one of them. I'm just going to share with you a photo that I found of you that I'd taken off the TV. So just to prove that I had a massive crush on you. And then this photo was taken.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so taken in '88 at Expo when I got back from the Olympics, and your brother Andrew there, of course. But how's that hair? Gotta love the '80s.
Yeah, so
great hair.
I'm very happy that the shape of my head is not the shape of my head that you have in that photograph that you just showed.
I know, right? Well, you know, I was known as a swimmer, not as a photographer.
It's the angle, everything, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, angle is everything. So you have been an icon in Australian TV. What's been your favourite role that you've done so far?
On TV?
Yeah. Or movies. What's been your favourite role that you've ever done?
Favourite role that I've done in the theatre is the Huckleberry Finn, I think, with Big River, which was my first one. And probably that was associated with being up first. So I was learning so much and had, you know, great songs to sing and things. As far as, you know, like Aussie TV, I did a show called Boney, which was the updated version of the Arthur Upfield book. So, and he was in the original books, Boney, the character, is an Aboriginal detective. In our version, my Boney was a white kid brought up by Aboriginals. And I just loved doing that. I loved working with the Aboriginal community, and I learnt so much doing that from our Indigenous folk. Just one of the things was to be joyful and how much fun I had with them doing it. And then there was another one that Ali and I were together during, and it was called Tracks of Glory, which was a mini series that I made with Justine Clark, and Richard Roxburgh was in it, and a bunch of other great actors, and that was a really fun one to do as well.
So is that where you learnt how to play the didgeridoo with that first series?
No, I learnt Ernie Dingo actually first introduced me to the didgeridoo back on the show that I did before Perfect Match, which was Off the Dish. an afternoon kids show. So
I
Ernie,
didn't know that.
yeah, he taught me how to.
Oh.
He taught me how to do the dingo
Circular-
sounds. He
Circular
didn't.
breathing?
No, I didn't learn the circular breathing till I was in America.
Yeah.
That was back when I was doing Models Inc. in America, and a friend of Linda Gray, her friend, a guy called Phil, and Phil was an Aboriginal. Phil was an Australian white man who was in. I go all the way through Arizona and places with his didgeridoos that he would import from Australia. And he taught me how to play a piece of PVC tubing. And he's taught me the circular breathing. But Ernie was the one that taught me how to make the dingo sound and the sound of the didgeridoo. He goes, it's called a didgeridoo because of the didgeridoo, didgeridoo, didgeridoo. So we would play around doing that. But I was like 18 at that point, 18, 19.
Yeah. So good. And I recently saw a series that you did with actually a girlfriend of mine's daughter living on the streets as a homeless person. Share with us what that was like for you and some of the experiences you experienced during that.
That was the SBS show, Filthy Rich and Homeless, last year's season. And look, we were, to say anything, first of all, I knew that I was going to be living amongst homeless people for 10 days. So I knew there was a time limit on it. Mm-hmm. My job on that show, as I saw it, was to really be a conduit between you, the audience, and what it is like to be homeless. So I threw myself in that way. And it was an incredible experience because I realized how quickly it can happen. And also, you know, we have preconceived ideas about the homeless, and often they're wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, our notions are. And I came out of it with the wisdom. Just, it's not about, you know, like, you know, you might see a homeless person and go, oh well, I'll take him a chicken, you know, or I'll take him this thing of insect spray, you know. But to carry that around is a pain in the ass. And to have a chicken, well, I just ate. What am I going to do with the chicken? So it's better just to have communications with that person who's homeless. Walk up, engage them, ask them if they're okay. Well, first of all, if they're awake. If they're asleep, let them be asleep, because it's exhausting living on the streets. It's very hard. The surfaces are hard. They're cold. They're unforgiving, and it's very difficult to find a place to soften. Here we are, we're in our home. It's a beautiful home. I'm assuming you're in your home. You've got books behind you. A homeless person can't carry books. And so it's very, and to go there, I found when I was there, the only place I could really soften in terms of just relax was in a toilet, because I could shut the door and I could lock the toilet door. And even then, if I was in a public toilet, well, that's just been sprayed out by a hose and disinfected, and it's all, the toilet bowl's aluminum. There's not even a seat on it. So it's just exhausting, and you're sleeping with one eye open. It's like perpetual jet lag. If you've ever had jet lag, that's how the feeling is. Yeah. So that's a lot of talking I've just done. But I've still, clearly, you know, that was 18 months ago. I think it stayed with me. Yeah. So, you know, it was a big experience.
Yeah, a good incredible one. So, Ali, when you were gracing the covers of pretty much every magazine back in the 80s, do you remember what it was like when you first saw your first cover, and how did your life change from that moment?
I do remember, and it was no surprise, it was a Dolly cover. And it was very exciting. It was very, I was so young. I was 16, my first cover.
Not so hot.
Yeah. Cute. Careful. Yeah, it was cute. Yeah, and I remember they used to, in the olden days, they used to get magazine covers and they'd make them bigger and they'd put them in like a metal grill kind of thing and put them outside the news agencies. And that's where I first saw it. I was in Cogra or something, for some weird place. And there I was, sitting outside the news agency. So look, it didn't really, certainly the first cover didn't change my life too much, really. I certainly got more work from that. But I was living at home with my two older sisters and mum and dad, and still going to school. So my family very much kept me humble.
Yeah.
There's not, two older sisters, they were like, oh, her, she's got big fat eyes and a big gap between her teeth, oh God. So I grew up with a lot of that. So things didn't really kick in change-wise until probably 18, 19, when things were sort of at its peak. And then I became more aware that people were recognizing me. And that was, I actually found that really difficult. I did not enjoy that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember I used to take my sister to the city to go shopping, and I wouldn't hear it. But my sister, at the end of this day, we had a great day together. She's 4 years younger than me. And she said, I hate going shopping with you. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, well, everyone says, oh, there's that swimmer, or there's Julie McDonald, or, that. And I said, I wouldn't hear it, And so it's quite interesting, So how did you guys both meet? How did all that happen? Did you stalk her?
No, I knew of her. I did know of her. That's probably a projection, actually. No, I knew of her, and my brother Lockie brought my attention to Ali. He showed me there was a his pants for her ad in a magazine, and it's like, oh, this is Alison Bray, isn't she hot? She is. And then I was in at the Dolly office, and there was those same broadsheets that Ali was referring to before on a wall, and I was there with the fashion editor walking through, and I said, oh, that's Alison Bray. She is gorgeous. And she said, do you want to meet her? And I said, I'd love to meet her. Of course I would. And so she mentioned that to Al, and Ali had a party. She'd organised a party with her longtime mate, and I got invited. So I had a gig on that night with my band, and I said to the band, look, I'm blowing out the gig because I'm going to meet Alison Bray. And they said, well, if you're going to meet Alison Bray and blow out the gig, we're coming too. So we just blew out the gig, and off the band went. We all trundled into this place, and there was Ali, and that was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
So how hard was it initially having two incredibly high-profile people under the same roof when you first got married?
Well, you have to understand, we grew up in a different time in terms of, there was no internet.
Yeah. Thank goodness, right?
Yeah, right? There was no selfies. There was all that sort of business.
Instagram.
It was all very, very different time, and you could be very private. It didn't matter. Yes, there were, as Al said, there were people that would follow and do things like that.
Got shirtless children running around behind.
Yeah. Well, shirtless.
That's all good.
We're all at home, hey? We're all in this together. There is no one you're looking at on the TV who's not affected by this virus in the world. We're all here. So it's a very different time. So it was. It seems a lot more pressure now, and the accessibility is so much greater now. We could have, our privacy. So it didn't really. It just seems like a much simpler, easier time than what it is now.
I think there was, at some point, we started recognizing that, some of the trashier mags were writing not true stuff about us, and that was. But I think we were in America by that point.
Yeah, and they were hiding behind. I mean, that was when it. Yeah, but the internet wasn't still there either.
Yeah.
At that point, and we were left in '92, so cut to scandals and business like that in '94, '95. There was still no internet, but there were guys with their long lens cameras, over the top of another person behind them, so you couldn't see the camera because it was shooting there across the shoulder. That sort of stuff on Malibu Beach, though we were being photographed in that way. Yet it still wasn't as bad as it could have been. It wasn't as bad as what people have to endure today.
Yeah.
Way worse today.
Yeah. So you've both had to reinvent yourselves throughout your careers on several occasions. While we're going through this time at the moment, how important is it for people to be able to adapt to the change? Have you got any advice on that?
Look, I think to me, it's just one day at a time. I think it's just, and take any sort of pressure off yourself. I think, that's the thing that I've realized too, that it's great if you want to be as fit as you ever can be and take up a new career and I'm going to be an author now. That's great. Though at the same time, we're all consciously, unconsciously dealing with something that's really brand new and it's really big and it can be really scary and overwhelming. And I think, if you're just getting through the day, you've fed yourself and you're all right at the end of the day, then you've done okay. I think just taking that pressure off is the most important thing right now. And just, I think certainly for me, and I feel like it's the general feeling too, is you can't help but feel what is really important right now. And, hugging my mum and dad feels like the most amazing thing I could possibly do that I have not been able to do in 8 weeks or so. Going over and visiting a friend and going out for dinner, all those little tiny things that we've taken for granted, I think are really, really pinpointed. It's nothing to do with wealth or career in so many ways. It's human interaction. And so that's the biggest learning thing for me. It's like, wow, it just all comes down to, how we are as people and how kind we can be. And there's, we've had so much great interaction with our neighbors and it's been so lovely. Like, did you do the Anzac service and go to the end of your driveway or something?
We sure did, yeah. I even made a little wreath.
Oh, good on you. Yeah. It was just beautiful. Like, it really moved me more than going to another Anzac services in the past, because it was just watching everyone come out in this dawn in their pajamas or not with a candle and looking up and down the street. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so moving. So yeah.
And maybe I was thinking that maybe even more people did that than they would go to a service.
Right.
It would be great if that, and I have a feeling it might kick in. You can always go to the dawn service at your local beach or the RSL or something, and if you don't, you walk to the end of the driveway, and this will be the start of something. And I have a feeling that will be it, because I also was saying on my radio show that this is an opportunity. You can look at it what you can't do, but look at what we can do, and look at what we probably will never have an Anzac Day like this again. And this is going to be one that we will remember. We really will remember,
Yep, absolutely.
Let's get this one. And it was a great opportunity. I heard it said the other day that during this time, because I agree with you, Ali, and in terms of what you were talking about with how to navigate today, this situation that we're in. And the things that I've been hearing is don't panic. Don't try and start a new career at this point. Look, use the time to sort of relax and figure out where you want to go and what you want to do. And there's this lovely and I guess a visual of, there's no name for this moment in our lives, but we do it all the time. And that is that moment where you breathe in, and then that moment where you exhale. That right there, there's no name for that moment, but that's where we're all at right now, in between the breath, going, well, what next? So there is an element of fear and there is an element of anxiety in that for everybody. So it's just really just go easy on yourselves and go easy on ourselves and not panic, and the answers will come. That's the thing. The answers will come as we sit in quiet. Maybe that's what it's teaching us to do, to sit quietly and go, all right. I'm having examples of that with people around me who are formulating new structures in their businesses and things like that, and going, oh, that's the way we go ahead. That's the way we do it. Not changing what they do, but not changing, you know, if they're still selling bananas, it's like, let's find a new way to sell bananas. You know?
Yeah, no, I love it. Great advice. So you both started your own podcast in May last year, Separate Bathrooms. So tell everyone a little bit about that and how that all got started.
God, you know, we can't actually remember whose idea it was, so we're just going to say both of our ideas.
It's 50-50, it's not 51-49.
It's 50-50.
I have got it on video that you agreed with her before, just so you know.
Yeah.
We'll cut that bit.
Documented. And we just, it kind of came, it basically came from, you know, whenever we would post something with the two of us on an Instagram or something, and of course you only give your best life on Instagram, and everyone thinks that, you know, you're the happiest, joyful, most amazing couple, never fight, and it's always, you know, you're having sex 5 times a day, and you know, all this kind of stuff, and we don't. We fight and we struggle, and we've had massive issues in our marriage.
Maybe one less massive than that. I mean, that was 4 massives right there.
That's for each.
3 massives.
That's for each thing that we've dealt with. And we've done hours of therapy, and we just thought, look, let's just share all of that and debunk the idea that there's this idea that we've got a perfect marriage, and we've learned some things and we're still learning things. We still struggle with certain aspects. And so we just kind of wanted to just share that and talk about that and just be real with our marriage, and sort of gather information from other people and other therapists and talk about that and see if that helps anyone else with their relationship.
Yeah, I think best we're perfectly imperfect.
Yep, love it.
And then everybody, I don't know any marriage that doesn't go through that, and there's this idea that, like Al said, that we're in this sort of place that was untouchable. It's like, wait a second, no, this is how difficult it is. It's difficult for everybody, everyone, or challenging for everybody at different points. Because it's not always, but we all go through stuff. So we just, you know, wanted to share our mistakes and what works for us that might not work for you, but what mistake we made that might actually work for someone else. It's different for everybody. So it was just a moment of going, all right, well, let's do this and let's see where this goes. So now we've just signed another year deal. Well, we've signed a year deal. We're only on ever a 10 episode season, and now we've just signed a deal for a year. So clearly, that's some part of it is resonating with our separate bathroom folk, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to get the word out too, because it's you know, Ali's great. I just push the buttons. I push her buttons.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you push those buttons.
You steady on, you leave me alone.
So Ali, on that note, Cameron is a Pisces male. In your research, have you discovered there's a book that is dedicated to understanding the Pisces male?
It must be very thin.
Very complicated.
Because I love astrology as well, and I'm a Scorpio, and Scorpio and Pisceans are actually the best match that there is.
Yes.
But I find, and one of my best friends is Piscean, and they both have the same element, this dreamy quality of like not quite grounded.
Are you Pisces
I'm
too?
Pisces, yeah.
I knew I liked
What
you.
date's your birthday?
14th.
Oh, that's Lockie's birthday, my brother.
Too,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they're they are one of my favorite people. I love Pisceans. They're usually very kind. They're very, very dreamy. Sometimes staying on task can be really difficult. And my best friend, who's a Piscean, and him, they have these weird sort of conversations where only those two really understand what they're talking about.
She often says, "Oh, Cameron, you're so pretty."
Yeah.
It's just a bit vague.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Cam, it's been so awesome to speak with you. I totally understand you're very busy, but Ali, if you've got more time, I'd love to continue our chat.
Yep. No
Are you still swimming? Do you still swim?
Well, I was until the pools shut down. I was, doing a little bit of swimming, but not competitively, just exercise.
Yeah. And can I ask, how far do you swim when you swim? When you go for your swim nowadays?
Maximum 2K.
Okay.
Just to keep, otherwise the brain goes, starts reliving horrible things. And so I go, no, just 2K.
Yeah.
Just 2K.
And what about in the ocean? Do you swim in the ocean? Do you ever do ocean swims?
Yeah, like I was doing a lot actually. One of my old coaches, we used to swim from Burleigh to North Burleigh with him. He had got Parkinson's disease, so for him it was all about swimming and getting movement, and I really enjoyed that. My only fear in swimming in the ocean is what's underneath, right? But I love swimming in the ocean, and so I like to mix it up a little bit, but mostly it's been pool swimming.
Yeah. So I swim every day. I don't like swimming in a pool. I get really bored of that black line, which I'm sure you're quite good friends with. Probably love and hate with the black line, right?
Correct.
I can't stand it. But if I have to, but I'd much rather be in the ocean. But yeah, I understand the feeling of the man in the grey suit underneath.
Yeah. I know, right?
The jelly touches you, like, oh! What was that?
I had my son over for the weekend, and he's just turned 18, and we're actually reliving a memory of when I took him to Tangalooma, and he was going to swim the kids swim, and I was swimming the adult swim, but they had this invasion of this particular type of jellyfish on that day that was quite dangerous for kids, but adults, it was like, you'll be all right. So he got to get out of the swim, and I had to do this swim. And I remember I was fairly unfit at the time. It was probably about, it doesn't matter. And I sprinted from the beach to the first buoy, and I swam and I turned around the first buoy, and I went, why did I do that? I just was full of lactic acid, and I was like, I just need to make it. I just need to make it. Yeah.
And you had to swim through the jellyfish?
Yeah, you had to swim through jellyfish, so you'd see them. So you just sort of put your hand on the top of them and push it back. But we were okay.
It's like boba. It's like boba, isn't it? That boba drink does. Yeah.
And Zach was saying on the weekend, "Oh, Mum, you came out and you had jellyfish down your toes attached to you." And
instead of a C cup, you're a double E.
Correct.
But on that note, I'm going to go.
See you, Cam. Thanks so much. Lovely to see you. So good, so good.
Yeah.
So, what do you have a favorite childhood memory that may have impacted the way that you look at the world, Ali?
I do, and it's it's not sort of necessarily one memory as much as multiple, and that is spending time with my grandparents. And they were just a super simple, loving, kind. My mum and dad were divorced when I was 5, so I used to spend a lot of time over with my grandparents, and they were just this lovely, kind, gentle, incredibly poor. Actually, they never owned a house. They just rented this tiny little fibro shack in Ermington in Sydney. But it was a house that was so full of love and joy. And my grandfather used to tinker with wood all the time, and he had a shed that he'd make dog houses, and I'd spend hours with him building things. And it's just my absolute favorite memories of being there with them. And it just showed me that life is not about finances. It's about what you create between a couple and the energy in a home. And bye, honey. And yeah, so any time spent with them was just gorgeous. Never a raised voice. I was never in trouble with them. I never heard them scream at each other, scream at me, ever, the whole time. So yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I was actually trying to find that photo of Cam and I came across some great photos of my grandparents. All have passed. So yeah, so I totally get that.
Yeah.
So what were you like as a kid? Were you a sporty kid? You know, did you have a hero when you were growing up? Tell people a little bit about who you were.
I was a dancer, so I did ballet for from the age of 5 to 14. So yeah, that was my life for a long time. I danced for 6 days a week, and then on the 6th day, which was the Saturday, I'd change out of my ballet uniform and go do netball. So I never thought about it being fit, but I must have been really fit at one point in my life. Don't know what that's like now, but yeah, who did I admire growing up? I mean, I certainly had some Margot Fontaine. I loved some there was a dancer called Darcy Bustle. So there was some ballerinas that I really admired, but I can't think of like hero wise that I know when I you know, my kids always make fun of me, but my obsession as a model was Christy Turlington. You know who she is?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God. And I still, to this day, I look at her and I go, the epitome of beauty. And she's gone on to do amazing things with charity and working with third world countries and helping women have safe birth experiences. So she's a winner. But yeah, she was, by the time I was 15, she was who in the modeling world, I thought was top notch.
Well, you yourself have been a supporter of World Vision for over 3 decades, and you also love your charities. So you and I are ambassadors for the same charity, Rise Up. So yeah. You've done a lot yourself, you know, for people that are, you know, more disadvantaged than yourself. What inspires you about doing work with charities?
I feel really fortunate to be born, you know, in this country. You know, I'm lucky I'm fortunate just to be white in a lot of ways. Do you know what I mean? Because white privilege has given me all sorts of, you know, ability to be able to move about the world without any racism. So, you know, there's so much that I feel like being fortunate I can give, and it takes so little to give. It takes, you know, for the World Vision, you know, it's such a little amount of money to support those kids, and what an impact it makes to those kids. You know, those yearly reports that you get, they're so inspiring to me. And with Rise Up, again, it's just, I just love the feeling of it. I love the feeling of knowing that somehow I've made just a tiny bit of difference in a positive way in someone's life. It's something that I really personally love. And, you know, hearing those letters back from families that have moved into those homes, and it's just incredible. It's just an incredible thing to be a part of, and I'm such a small part of it. So, but I love charity work. I will always do charity work. So, yeah.
What's your favorite way to relax?
I love to knit.
Do you?
Yes. My dad taught me how to knit when I was a little girl. Yeah. And I've knitted my entire life, and it's so relaxing to me. So yeah, there's been a lot of knitting recently, but a lot of puzzling as well, doing puzzles. But yeah, knit. Yeah.
That is so great. So you both are incredible, humble people. How important is that to you? Is it something that you constantly strive to be, or is it something that just comes really naturally because of your background?
I think it's both. There's also I've had to work with a lot of deep insecurities as well, which kind of goes hand in hand with the humbleness in some ways. I've had a lot, still struggle with insecurity. So
People are not going to believe that, Ali.
yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, I didn't grow up thinking I was definitely the ugly duckling growing up. My middle sister was the beautiful one. And even with modeling, I never thought I was that great. I just think sort of to this day, I kind of feel like I got a lot of work because I was easy to work with. I didn't complain a lot. So that's sort of why I feel like I did so well.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, you just are such a beautiful natural beauty. I think, I look at you and Jennifer Hawkins, right? For me, you two are both real natural beauties.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I think it's just, I actually love humble people as well. I think it's a beautiful attribute. So it's something I strive for, as well as, I think I was raised that way too. Again, a lot of influence from my grandparents, very humble people.
Yeah. So the big question, peanut butter, Vegemite or Promite?
Vegemite. Definitely Vegemite. Peanut butter's a pretty close second. Never Promite, ever.
I'm yet to find someone that likes Promite.
I think
I
the
love
English
it.
do, right? I think it's
I
the
don't know.
English thing that like the Promites. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, I've got a few. And the first one that comes to mind is Crazy Stupid Love. You ever seen that with it's got like Ryan Gosling, and I love a comedy. We just watched Lady Bird last night. Also really good. Yeah, gosh, Never Ending Story. Take me back to when my kids were little. Love that one. So good. There's a lot.
Yeah. So alive or dead, who is someone that you would love to meet and spend time with?
I'm going to say David Attenborough. I just think the places that man has traveled and the stories he could tell and his voice, I just would be like, just talk to me. Just tell me your stories. I mean, yeah, incredible. What an incredible life he's had. Just amazing.
Yeah. Well, Ali, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you this morning. I'm really grateful that you said yes to my invitation to come and join me with Natter with Macca.
Well, well, thank you for asking me. And when I saw it was you, I mean, for me, we talked early on about Rise Up, and you were instrumental in that for me. So I'm grateful to you because, you gave me the lowdown on what it was and was so encouraging to me. So, thank you for that. So of course I wanted to get to chat with you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.